Conan, Violence Dimension, the sixth studio album from the Liverpudlian stoner doom heavy band. How you doing, Mike?
I'm all right, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. Any history with Conan? They've been around for a while. I think they formed in 2006, I believe, or something like that. Maybe even earlier.
No, they did, yeah, but I don't think they really sort of emerged properly until what was it like 2014 or something like that, or maybe just before then. But
Yeah,
um, I remember when they came out with was it Blood Eagle was their sort of main
yeah.
sort of debut, and that was the only album I've really listened to by them. And I think maybe a little bit of the one after is like a yellow front cover, maybe, or was that before? Maybe that was
I think they
before
had. I think they had an EP before. I think their first album was.
the Monos.
Yes, that's right. And then Blood Eagle came out in 2014.
Yes.
But they had Horseback Battlehammer, which was like an EP, which I think kind of pushed them a little bit into a bit more of the known in the kind of doom stoner audience.
It feels like they've been around for ages, and they kind of have.
Well, they have, yeah. I saw them 2015, yeah, 10 years ago now. They were quite early on like a festival, and it was the loudest band of the day. Like it was crazy heavy, and I think that was kind of what they were kind of known for. It was like sonically, it was just an absolute assault, and that doesn't really change much with this record. It's definitely that, isn't it? It's kind of an assault sonically. It's not so much like a heavy like riff fest. It's just I think what they do is focus on tone and
Yeah.
power rather than riffs. But yeah, I'm keen to know your take on it because I don't think we've ever really spoke about Conan before.
No, they were one of those bands that when I remember listening to their early stuff, and I remember at points thinking, this is fucking one of their heaviest. Some of their stuff is like, as you said, sonically is one of the heaviest things you can kind of hear.
Yeah,
But I don't know about you. My kind of feeling with Conan is that anytime I listen to them, I think, yeah, these are a good band. Like, but this I've never got into it enough to like want to delve into them anymore or become a fan as such or anything. Like I have never had that sort of connection with them.
I'm in a similar boat. I really enjoyed Blood Eagle when it came out, but then there, I always get excited when I put Conan on. Initially, I'm like, this is great. This is heavy. It's like it's perfect. Like when I put it on, it hits that what I'm after. But then after a little bit, I'm left just a little bit like I've heard enough now.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't they don't they don't really push the boundary of kind of caveman battle doom, do they? It's just straight up like, okay, this is simplistic riff. Vocally, it's very one note, and then
Yeah.
it's just yeah, it's just you know what you're going to get, don't you? They don't ever really break new ground, and I think that is kind of prevalent on this record too.
I mean, what I feel with Conan, especially listening to this album, is that they do quite a lot with not very much, if you know what I mean. Like they have very
Yeah,
simple riffs. I mean, the riffs are very simple. Can you imagine if they
it's very simple.
well, can you imagine if they didn't have the tone to match it?
It wouldn't be where it is. It
No,
wouldn't be where it is. Do you reckon the name helps as well?
the name and the name, the font, it looks
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
And
it does.
the art as well, the
Yeah,
package works
the
very well.
aesthetically, you're like, okay, this is going to hit, and it does, but then it just doesn't give you reason to necessarily return.
That's how I feel about them. And I listen to this album, and it feels like it's an album lacking of moments, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's solid all the way through. Um, and I'm gonna moan about a thing that I know I do a lot with bands in this, but
I know what's coming.
it's and it's not all of it, but it is too long.
It's too long. There it is.
It it
It's the
is it it
bingo check.
it is too long, but
It is. No, it is. I agree.
not all of it's too long though. If you know what I mean. Like,
Do you know
go on.
where it? do you know where it worked for me was the short. There were two songs in the middle that were like 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and they were for me. That is where I thought it was the best on the record because
Yeah.
that kind of 3 minute song varied in pace a little bit, and then the 45 second song was like a fast, almost like punkier hardcore kind of injection.
Yeah.
And I thought that that worked really well. Then they kind of just went straight back into a kind of another 9 minute ocean of boiling skin, which again it just didn't really do anything. You sort of had an okay riff to start it, had that kind of swing bluesy element to it, but then after that, you had a build up of like this bass. Everything dropped out. You had a bass build up for like a minute, and then it dropped into the same riff, and it just all felt quite underwhelming. And it just looped that out for 5 minutes, and I think what my issue with it was that each song was too long, but the section didn't have enough to sustain each like long prolonged section didn't have enough in it
Yeah.
to sustain your interest.
There wasn't what I felt that this what they lack in their sound is kind of variation, layering. There's bits of it I was listening to thinking they've gone back into this, but where's the extra
Yeah.
bit? Like they could. I feel like a band that could benefit from like synths, something
Yeah,
to
yeah,
go in over the top in places. Like there's my main gripes with the length of this was so track one
yeah,
again, great riff, simple, effective. It's based on, what it's based on. Really cool. There's a nice fuzz, sort of noisy melodic lead in there, and about 5 minutes in, that felt to me that should have ended after that section, about 6 minutes. But then they sort of go into another section which felt unnecessary, and
yeah.
they do that again for 3 minutes. Brings it up like though that song could be cut in half, and it would
But that's it's 9 minutes long, that song, isn't it? And I think, as you said, at 6 minutes there was a kind of ending point, and you're like, okay, that would be a good. But then they just unnecessarily add, and they're not adding anything that progresses the song, that betters the
no.
song. It's just they're just tacking on a little bit extra on the end. I don't know, man. I just feel like this album, it felt rushed almost in its writing process.
I mean, I don't know Conan well enough to know that this is maybe their formula in how they write, but there was. We're talking about slightly shorter songs. Track two, Desolation Hex. It's a 5 minute long song. It was so much better at that length. They
Yeah,
it still had the thing of like dragging the riffs out and stuff, but they didn't do it for too long. And then the changes, because their songs are near enough fundamentally, probably two main riffs, aren't they? Pretty much,
yeah,
and then they work around it, but they don't really vary them at all.
no,
So when they're doing that, it almost felt like on a, a good chunk of this album, song wise, there'd be two riffs, about 5 minutes each of each
yeah,
one, and
yeah,
it they could have halved those sections down and made the album a lot more concise.
yeah.
Um, and
And well, I
yeah,
agree, and I think like because the album is an hour long, I think if it was more in the half an hour, 40 minute realm, it would have been a lot more powerful. I think it just would have been a lot more palatable as well.
yeah,
I think you could have like entirely cut out track four, power, violence dimension. Um, for me, like talking about kind of repeating moments but not adding anything, this was like a perfect example of that. You had like a clean intro that was kind of a bit vanilla and played out in that kind of doom trope. Then you're like, okay, predictably, everything's all going to come in and play the exact same thing but distorted. It does that. Then it goes back to the clean passage again, exactly the same. Then it goes back to the heavy, and it's like
yeah,
they do add like an effect over the top, but it's not like a solo. It's not like a
yeah,
whirring. It's not like when Electric Wizard do it, and it really kind of like pushes the mix and it makes everything sound super fuzzed out.
yeah.
It didn't do that. It just sort of just sat on top and didn't really add much.
Can I say though? I'll be honest. That song "Violence Dimension," I actually didn't mind that one as much. I completely
Really?
well, no, I completely agree with your points on it because I remember thinking when it's going back to the cleaner parts, like there should be something else added there. But what I will say is, I actually, even though it was incredibly simple, I actually liked the riff, and like
Okay,
when it
yeah.
came back in, I actually liked it, and I did feel that. if the rest of the album was kind of sorted out and made more concise, that this would have been okay sat in the middle doing that.
Yeah,
And then I quite liked that when they did do the change at 7 minutes, it finally changed, and then vocals came in at that point.
yeah.
I enjoyed that bit as well. I thought that was quite cool. Um,
I enjoyed that end bit. It was very heavy, and it almost reminded me of Torch a little bit with that really
yeah,
super low end chugging, almost
yeah,
inaudible. I thought, oh man, I almost wish this came in before the kind of repeat of that bit
yeah,
before, But yeah,
yeah. There's this album to me. I just think there was elements of it. I think the basics of this album could be really good,
yeah,
but it just felt like it just needed to be made more concise in places, and maybe just experiment a bit more with some other instrumentation in there to add these interesting moments. And then I think it could have been a really fucking good album, to be honest with you, if that
yeah,
aspect was added. Because typically with Conan, the tone was great. Um, the riffs were very simple, but largely very cool.
yeah.
The
They've
drama
always
was
had
good.
that about them, haven't they?
Yeah. And the
I
drummer's
think
good. The drummer does good shit as well. And but again, very simple, but does everything kind
powerful.
of right and
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah.
But it's
I
just, yeah, go on.
Go on. Oh, I was just going to
No, no,
say,
no, no.
I went back and listened to Blood Eagle after this because I hadn't actually kind of gone back to Conan in a long time, so it was quite I quite enjoyed doing this week because it was a little bit of a blast from the past, but it just instantly stood out as being a bit more elevated. Like the riffs were a bit better, the pacing was better, the production wasn't as the production was still really tone heavy and like really heavy, but it had that kind of underground edge to it where this violence dimension is very modern produced heavy, and I just feel like I don't know, it felt like violence dimension just felt like they'd run out of ideas almost, and they're just kind of putting out albums for the sake of it now. As harsh as that sounds.
Yeah. I, yeah. I mean, I, yeah, I feel harsh, sort of. I, I don't want to talk too negative on the album, because I do think it's good for what it is, but it's lacking. It's lacking something.
Yeah,
And I
and
feel like a band at this point, 6 albums in, you would maybe expect there to be some more experimentation, or some a bit more of an evolution.
yeah, and for this record, they actually had the guy from Fudge Tunnel came in
Oh,
to do
cool.
bass. So I thought maybe there'd be a bit more of like an influence of that coming in, but it didn't seem like it. It just was kind of much the same. I think I read somewhere that they went a bit more down a kind of a more violence heavy approach for this record than previous things, but I didn't necessarily come across, maybe apart from like one of the
Warp
tracks.
Sword.
Warp Sword, and maybe Desolation Hex. I felt like the verses were kind of a bit more ferocious and
Yeah.
powerful, but everything else was a kind of just a bit more by numbers Conan. But yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Like, not necessarily saying it's like bad. It just was a bit lacking and a bit long.
It was, man. And I kind of had a frustration at the end of it, because I thought I won't go back to this album, but it felt like it might not have taken much change to make it
To make it,
a
yeah.
lot better.
Yeah, I agree, man. I guess one thing I do want to ask you about, Mike, speaking about lengths and being too long, what do you feel about the last song?
Do you know what? Right, when I do my notes for this, right, I go and get track listings. I don't type them out. I go and get them from like somewhere that's like a shop that's selling it on vinyl, and I just
Okay.
and I nick the track. And that last track wasn't on it, so I don't know whether that was an streaming exclusive, or it's not on every version of it.
Ah,
But I didn't realize that, and then listened to the last track, and I was like, oh, it really is just kind of like feedback and sort of
drone.
vocal samples and drones for 12 minutes. And I skipped through it just to see if anything would happen, and nothing happened.
Yeah, I did exactly the same. When you messaged me going, how many times have you listened to the last track? And I was thinking, I hadn't even got there yet. And I was thinking, oh, God, what's it going to be like? And yeah. It's just if the album is already like long, sticking that on at the end is a fast way to kind of
Is it a
annoy
piss
the
take,
listener.
John?
Yeah, it's a little bit, isn't it?
But when you think of that, right? If you take track 7, Ocean of Boiling Skin, and then I don't even know what the last song's called. I haven't got it on here. Um, you put that together, that's like 20 minutes. Those two songs, over 20 minutes.
Yeah, the last track was called Vortexion, but whether that is or not on
I think
included,
it must be some sort of bonus, right? Like you
well,
know,
I mean, imagine getting that as the bonus. You'd be a bit, bit
I
annoyed, isn't
know,
it?
man. Because the thing is, it doesn't have that drone sort of. It doesn't have drone in the sort of special way that a band like Sun do it, or anything like that. It's
Yeah,
not
it's not something that
that
you can like actually have and find some sort of structure or rhythm in. It was just
for
yeah,
the sake
12
of
minutes.
it.
Yeah, bit of a weird one, that one, but yeah. Would you recommend this, Mike? Would you say it's worth checking out?
I think if you haven't heard Conan before and you want to check them out, I would actually just go back and do. I mean, I don't. To be fair, I don't know any of the other albums that they've done between kind of the whole Blood Eagle Monos sort of era. Those three that they sort of did between them and this one. So I don't know how good those ones are, but I don't know whether this is the right one to start with.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd say if you've never heard this band before, go back and do Blood Eagle and maybe go from there. Um, for me, it is an all round better record.
But if you're a fan of Conan, I suppose you just don't need us to sort of say whether to check this one out or not. You probably already have.
I'd be
And
keen to know where fans think this sits.
yeah, I actually know what I haven't looked at any other like publications review of this to see where what people are actually saying about this album, whether it feels like it's a regression or it's just too much more of the same, or it's or it is hailed as one of their better albums. There's
Yeah, yeah, I'd be keen to know. I'd be keen.
I
And
it's yeah, go on, John. Sorry.
I was just going to say it probably works better live as well.
I
This
was going
kind of
to
thing.
ask you this because you said how loud it was, and I remember listening to it at the time, thinking, do these song lengths translate better live? As if like it's so loud, it's so like in your face, and there's the atmosphere of the kind of live setting that the time that passes feels a lot quicker than what it does
On
when you're
record.
listening to it on album.
Yeah, I think so. I think the kind of the actual sonic assault that you're getting to the ears really does kind of change the whole presence of hearing like a riff be repeated or come back. It would definitely change that aesthetic. But yeah, more a live band than record. But
Well, yeah, I wondered that. I actually never seen them, but I would imagine they are probably more of a live band. Can I just say though, vocally, I know you said and it is, it's very one tone. I like his voice.
yeah, it works. It does work well for what you're getting.
Yeah,
I guess like the description is bang on, like caveman battle doom. Like it is very knuckle dragging, basic, heavy. If you just want something that is gonna destroy your eardrums for a little bit, this will be a kind of one for you.
did you think though as well, like just a band that have been going this long and playing this long that they? I'm not saying they're bad players, so I don't think that at all. But you would think that maybe at this point with their playing that they would be wanting to.
I I actually interviewed him for an older podcast, and he has kind of taken pride in the sense that he is being able to kind of just not be able to play guitar very well and do this, if you know what I mean.
Well,
That's the
fair
kind
play
of
to him then.
yeah, that's the approach
Yeah,
that he kind of takes, I think.
because
So
they don't really solo or anything, do they? There's no
no,
technical prowess
it's just
to.
we're making heavy music with simplistic kind of riffs, and here you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
are we expecting
Uh,
too much, John? Do you think?
no, I don't think so. I don't think
No.
so because we do appreciate this in other forms.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, let us know
Cool.
what you think, especially if you are a Conan fan. I'd be keen to know like where this sits. But if you kind of like what you heard today, do give us a subscribe and like the video. It does help a lot. We put out new videos every Wednesday and Friday, so stick around and check out what's coming next, and we'll catch you in the next one.